You should know that the president did nothing, has not lifted a finger to help the African-American community. He's been the most divisive president we've seen in our lifetime for African-American people.
I love the signs behind me. Blacks for Trump. I like those signs. Blacks for Trump. You watch.
In America, the black community totals about 45 million people, 13% of the country's population. For over the past half-century, every 4 years, the black vote has gone overwhelmingly to the Democratic Party. According to Black Demographics, their support has been near total, north of 80% since 1964. And in 2008 and 2012, a full 95 and 93% of the black vote went to the Democratic ticket of Barack Obama and his running mate, Joe Biden.
In terms of my experience with Obama, the preparation I did when I was running against him, so when you start playing games in this way, you are actually acting as if the institution has no basis independent of your own arbitrary whim. Learning a little bit about his background convinced me of what I think has now been proven to be the case, that he was brought along, trained up, as it were, by various of the people he encountered in his life as a deeply committed, hardline communist. What these days would be called a socialist, I suppose, but a totalitarian socialist who advocated that hard line and was not uncomfortable with it. I think it was crazy to elect him as president of the United States, and we're still suffering from the consequences.
Fast forward 2 elections later to 2016, and blacks again showed overwhelming support for Hillary Clinton and the Democratic Party at just under 90%. But despite the Republican nominee, Donald Trump, only receiving 8% of the black vote, which has been the average for the Republican candidate for the past 5 elections, he still won. In fact, many political experts attribute Trump's victory in the blue wall states of Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania to a lower than expected turnout of the black vote in urban areas, with not enough blacks being as enthused about Hillary as they were Obama.
Hillary Clinton. That's who they wanted us to vote for over Trump.
Now fast forward to 2020, and it's Barack Obama's vice president versus Donald Trump. In June of this year, as part of the Washington Post Ipsos poll, just over 1,000 black American registered voters were randomly surveyed. One of the questions was, if the presidential election were held today, for whom would you vote if the candidates were Joe Biden, the Democrat, or Donald Trump, the Republican? 92% said Biden, 5% said Trump, and 4% had no opinion. More recently, just last month, the Wall Street Journal found similar results. They too polled 1,000 black registered voters, and 90% said their preference for president was Biden, while only 5% preferred Trump. Comparing Washington Post's 92% and Wall Street Journal's 90% to the last 5 presidential elections, history has shown these polls to be pretty accurate, because 91% is the average for blacks voting for the Democratic candidate in the past 5 elections.
In the past, the black community has been promised everything from the Democrats by the Democrats, and they've gotten nothing.
An Emerson poll from last year had Trump's approval among blacks over 34%, and more recently, not even 2 months ago, Rasmussen Reports polled black voter approval at 45%.
Everyone around me tried to pick my candidate for me, and then told me every time I said I like Trump that I couldn't say it out loud, or my career would be over. I get kicked out the black community because we're supposed to have a monolithic thought. We can only be Democrats and all.
They want you to stay stuck in that slavery mindset.
That's right.
Where somebody can think for you and spoon feed you, but we don't need anyone doing that to us. So if we want to support this president, we will. And listen, black people are behind President Donald J. Trump, and that's what scares the left.
According to Pew Research Center, some of the main issues for Biden supporters are the economy, healthcare, and race and ethnic inequality. Among the registered voters who support Biden, 72% say the economy is very important to their vote in the 2020 presidential election. 84% say healthcare is very important, and 76% point out race and ethnic inequality as being very important to their vote. Looking to Trump's history with the American economy, when he took office, the unemployment rate for blacks was at 7.5%. Since then, it's been on a steady decline. In late 2019, black unemployment was at 5.4%, and that marked the lowest level in recorded U.S. history.
Black unemployment rate, another historic low at 5.4%. That's the lowest since they've been keeping records.
With health care, or the organized provision of medical care to individuals or a community, the Democratic Party is diametrically opposed to blacks. In the Democratic Party platform, Democrats believe every woman should be able to access high-quality reproductive health care services, including safe and legal abortion. Why would black Americans consistently vote for a party that extinguishes their own existence?
The left is incredibly good at linguistics. Planned Parenthood. That sounds nice. I want to plan my parenthood. But in reality, they're murdering babies.
Not only does the abortion industry extinguish the American population, but the industry directly targets the black community at a higher rate than any other community. In 2015, the pro-life activist group Black Community News, headlined by Star Parker, issued a policy report titled The Effects of Abortion on the Black Community. The document highlights a study from 2010 census results. The findings? 79% of Planned Parenthood's surgical abortion facilities are strategically located within walking distance of African and/or Hispanic communities. Here are the Planned Parenthood locations compiled a decade ago. Most of the dots are blue, representing black neighborhoods. Every year, Planned Parenthood increases its number of abortions, meaning every year more black babies are targeted. Just in its last 3 annual reports, the number of children killed in the womb from Planned Parenthood. Over 321,000 reported in the 2017 report. Just under 333,000 reported in the 2018 report. And in the 2019 Planned Parenthood report reveals that more than 345,000 children were murdered in the womb in that fiscal year.
I don't understand how any person of color can have their John Hancock affixed to a political party that has in its party platform the support of an organization that supports a procedure that has wiped out 46% of African Americans since 1973.
Margaret Sanger, an outspoken racist and eugenicist, founded Planned Parenthood. She opened up the first birth control facility in the United States in 1916. Her philosophy on birth control or contraception is summed up with her own words. Birth control itself, often denounced as a violation of natural law, is nothing more or less than the facilitation of the process of weeding out the unfit, of preventing the birth of defectives or of those who will become defectives.
She began her career trying to reduce the populations of black and other minorities through eugenics. She said the chief aim of birth control. Another was birth control to create a race of thoroughbreds. She referred to black people and others as inferior, people who should be banned from having children, and she also referred to them as human weeds and human waste.
On December 10, 1939, Sanger wrote a letter to Dr. Clarence, or C.J. Gamble. In the letter, she said, "We do not want word to go out that we want to exterminate the Negro population, and the minister is the man who can straighten out that idea if it ever occurs to any of their more rebellious members." Sanger was urging Gamble, a black physician, to gather support from black Christian ministers in an effort to further advance her racist and murderous agenda. This evil philosophy was the foundation of the Negro Project, a campaign led by Sanger and implemented by the Birth Control Federation of America, now Planned Parenthood.
I would have to point to the Democrats who have a platform that explicitly rejects God, that explicitly supports the murder of innocent human beings in the womb, which is an abomination to God, and which explicitly advocates an approach to things, our human nature, our sexuality, our family responsibilities, all of which reject the premises that are the root of our family life as it comes from the hand of God in our biblical tradition and through the words of Christ. So I don't see how you can make all that evil compatible with good. Cast a vote for it, and you're casting a vote that will be the undoing of our nation.
On the issue of race and ethnic inequality, arguably the most widely supported so-called effort to solve these sorts of problems is Black Lives Matter, or BLM for short. This 7-year-old movement has garnered support from virtually all Democrats, some Republicans, American professional sports, Catholic bishops, you name it. the movement says that black lives are systematically and intentionally targeted for demise. Its plan to solve this so-called problem? We disrupt the Western prescribed nuclear family structure requirement. We dismantle the patriarchal practice that requires mothers to work double shifts so that they can mother in private even as they participate in public justice work. So in order to fight racism, BLM disrupts the nuclear family structure and dismantles the patriarchal practice. The nuclear family is also known as the elementary or conjugal family, consisting of two parents, a man and a woman, and their children. The patriarchy is a tradition that comes from Scripture. For the husband is the head of the wife, as Christ is the head of the church, his body, and is himself its Savior. Important to note, all these points were sitting on the official BLM website, but when discovered and circulated, exposing their actual agenda, they were removed in September. According to the 2017 U.S. Census Bureau, 19.7 million children, more than 1 in 4, live without a father in the home, a number that BLM's agenda, if fulfilled, will increase. And according to Kids Count Data Center, in regards to children in single-parent families, among Black or African Americans in 2018, 65%, the highest of any race in America, grow up in single-parent families.
Children from single-parent homes versus two-parent homes. The children from the single-parent homes, this is in 1995 I was reading this. 5 times more likely to commit suicide, 6 times more likely to be in poverty, 9 times more likely to drop out of high school, 10 times more likely to abuse chemical substances, 14 times more likely to commit rape, 20 times more likely to end up in prison, and 32 times more likely to run away from home.
I think the greatest hope that America has in the election upcoming is the one we've always had, because our greatest hope is in God. Our greatest hope is in the one who is mentioned in the Declaration, though some people don't realize it, and that's Jesus Christ. For who else is the Creator who endowed us with our rights? Christ was, in fact, the Word made flesh through whom all things were made. So long as we are faithful to that Word, we will make a choice that reflects the endowment of God for our rights. And what are rights? Rights are the exercise of our freedom according to God's will. It's very simple. It exactly corresponds to the Christian understanding of our vocation, and therefore the hope lies in our faithfulness to that vocation. And insofar as we follow it up, we will not only see a victory for the right in the election, we will lay the foundations for a return to America's bedrock strength, which is our faith in God, which becomes the courage that guides us in our choices and has always helped to preserve us in our steadfast unwillingness to let go of the vocation we have from God to serve not just ourselves, but our posterity, not just our nation, but all of humankind.